All right. So on this episode of Empowering Her, we have special guest Maria. Maria, thank you so much for coming on here to share your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right. So let's start with kind of the role that you have now and kind of that journey that it took to get where you are.
Sure. So the role I'm in right now is content manager for Catena Media. And we are an affiliate media company. We create news, articles, posts for a variety of websites. And we have links to our affiliate purposes. So we have
Okay.
links that encourage readers to click on and then go to where we would get some sort of kickback for that click. It's kind of like if you were an influencer, that sort of thing too. We're not specifically selling anything. We're just directing you where you could find something that you might be interested in. And it's specifically for the gaming industry, which is
Okay.
super male dominated. So to be a woman in gaming is really fascinating and interesting. And there's a lot of really great options out there. Before this, what got me into this was that I spent 3 years in a casino, and that's where I got all of my marketing experience and my gaming experience. A casino was something I never expected to work in. I had been a stay at home mom before that position. And after 5 years and then sending my child off to school, I was ready to work again. And it took a long time. And I had kind of felt like I hit rock bottom. So I was just going to go be a waitress or something like that because it was taking too long. I was also a writer at the time, so I thought that working at night would help me free up my days to still be there for my son and then write during the day. So I landed at this casino interview, and almost immediately they were like, "No, you don't belong on the casino floor. We want you to meet our marketing department,"
Okay.
which I'm so thankful for. And so that got me into the marketing world. Spent 3 years there, advanced very quickly, started off as an assistant, then went into a coordinator role, and then I was management before a year there. So I was the advertising manager and took care of everything from inside the casino and outside of the casino, all messaging and graphics and social media, everything. And before that, my career was actually in the legal field. I was a paralegal for an employment law firm where we did plaintiff's employment law, which is when you're having a problem at work and it seems like there's some sort of illegal discrimination going on, you might feel like you need to reach out to an attorney. We were those attorneys. And then before that, I had worked in the opposite side of employment law. I worked for a large corporation in which we were doing some immigration paperwork and then also responding to claims of discrimination and kind of supporting the company. Um, and yeah, college was before that. I did a little bit of intellectual property law too, which is patents and trademarks, copyrights, things like that, which is really relevant right now as well as a lot of businesses are taking off. A lot of small businesses are really becoming bigger and really just staking claim in your name and your trademark and things like that are really important that people need to understand right now.
So what I love about this story is, I mean, number one, you've had like just a crazy variety of experiences, and as you mentioned that you're in an industry that is like male dominated, but
Mhm.
you are thriving and being successful, and so. And, and there are so many girls and women that play video games. I think we
Mhm.
have the idea that it's mainly guys that play
Yeah.
video games, but I would love to see more women get into this industry because as you thrive in it and girls that are growing up seeing you thriving in it, then they go, you know what? I can do that too. So I think it's so important seeing so many of you in these like leadership positions and thriving in these positions that are typically male dominated so you can kind of pave that way to make that change for our youth kind of coming up into it.
Definitely. And gaming is not going anywhere. If COVID
Right.
taught us anything, it's that people want something to do at home and it's really accessible.
Yeah, and we're even seeing some advertising agencies and a lot of people hopping into the video game world because they realize there's such a kind of a marketing and advertising,
Yep.
and because there's so many people that the average age of the gamer is one that has actual disposable income, so they're going, oh
Right.
wait a minute, these are the people that can actually buy things. So let's
Exactly. Yeah.
advertise. So for where you're at, would a college degree be required?
What's funny is I went and looked up the current job description for a similar role to mine
Mhm.
to find that out because I couldn't remember from looking or applying a few months ago. So I looked and it says that it requires a 2 to 4 year degree.
Okay.
But in my experience, the college degree has kind of been so generic anymore that it's putting yourself above and beyond those pieces that might be necessary, but
Mhm.
it's the things like certifications and going above and beyond learning WordPress. I mean, you can do that very easily. SEO, things like that are really going to set you apart and help you stand out as somebody who knows what they're doing. And even just writing and getting into having a blog of your own is something really accessible to everyone. It might cost a little money to get your URL and to get hosting, but doing that creates this whole back catalog of everything that you have to show an employer as well to give you that credibility. And more people need to jump on that, just have something to show, especially when I have mentored different people. I've mentored somebody in the social media world. I've mentored somebody in user experience and somebody in graphic design. All of them need to show what they've created. And the easiest way to do that is set up a WordPress site and just don't be scared to learn it and jump around there and try things out.
I like that because we're seeing that there's a lot of people that might have a college degree, but they are working completely in different fields, and so
Mhm.
then you kind of have to ask yourself, like, okay, there is value in a college education if that's what you
Yep.
need, but if you are working in a profession that your college degree has no bearing on, then you have to ask yourself, was that really important? Of course, if you want to be a nurse, an architect, a
Yeah.
teacher, then you have to have that. But I really like how you mentioned WordPress and kind of building up that product, because I think having that portfolio that shows that practical knowledge and I can do it is very, very important, because we
Yep.
get a lot of theory in college, but not a lot of that hands-on experience.
Yeah. And I went to college to really date myself here. So I graduated high school in 1999 and went to college at that time. And I went for journalism and sociology. I started off going for business. It was too tough for me. So I didn't continue with business and pivoted over to journalism and sociology. At the time, I wouldn't have called it a pivot, I would have called it a failure. But now I understand it was just a redirection. And journalism back in 1999 is very different from journalism now. We didn't even have news online at that time, I don't think. So everything I learned was kind of useless.
That's hilarious. Well, and it just shows you within tech and marketing, sales, all these careers, like there's so many of them that move so fast where you learn something and then a year or two later it's obsolete and there's
Mhm.
brand new stuff to learn.
Definitely. Like even I don't even have a TikTok set up and I know I keep hearing this is something you're supposed to have and I'm like I have too much already.
Don't you want to be one of the cool kids? Come on now. I
I
mean,
know, right? I'm so not.
so what's it's interesting that you mentioned TikTok, because I know there was kind of a debate thread on LinkedIn the other day where they were debating the benefits of using TikTok in like B2B, and so and then here's Todd over at Refine Labs that is just making these hilarious videos that is just driving engagement, and so
Yep.
so now even in that, we're starting to see kind of that shift to entertainment within
Mhm.
B2B, which might have been previously seen as kind of serious, a little stuffy. And so,
Yeah.
but, we all know we all like to be entertained. And
Yeah, it is entertaining. It's just really time consuming. And if that's not your full job, it's hard to make the time for it.
yeah, absolutely. And you kind of have, you getting into it, you are now the one that is kind of figuring out, so you've got to tinker and
Yeah.
experiment. But for somebody, if I have a student that is watching this and they go, I love social media, I like
Mhm.
creating things, that might be a really good area for them to be in.
Definitely.
So, one question that gets asked a lot by my students is salary.
Mhm.
So, and I know it's all over the place because you have
Yeah.
different areas of marketing and you have startups and you have corporations and stuff, but let's just go with an average overall. What might the salary range look like starting in at kind of that entry level point and then moving all the way up to, say, a VP or a CMO?
Sure. So I can give you a great example of when I was working at the casino because I experienced it over a 3-year span and lots of different changes. So when I first started off as an assistant there, I was making $15 an hour. And for somebody who had had a whole 10-year career before that, it was kind of shocking, but I accepted it. So that's obviously not a lot of money. That's not going to, take care of your entire family. So I started off there. About I want to say 4 months later, I got a promotion to a coordinator and was making $20 an hour, which was it was significantly. I mean, when you look at it, it's a what is that? 50% jump. Um,
And when was this also?
this was I started working there at the end of 2017. So 2017,
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
I went through COVID with them and then I left after that. So I was in that position for another 4 months. And then I got my biggest bump into management. And that came with it started off at $60,000, which I am happy to tell you if you do go along that path as an entry level person, that's good. For me, it wasn't great. And for the workload, it wasn't great, unfortunately. But if this is your first job and you're getting promoted, that's good. Um, the benefits were included too. So health, 401k options. And then it also included bonus structure, which was really helpful. So management got bonus, which ended up being about another $10,000 a year for me. So I was in that position for about 2 years. And each time that reviews came around, I got another bump in my salary. So by the time that I left there, I was making 77,000 and I would have made 83,000 if I had continued to stay there. And unfortunately, I left before my bonus paid out too, so I missed out on that. But I could have potentially been making almost $100,000 in that position if I had stuck around for another year or so.
Well, and that's even in a very short amount of
Yeah,
time if you take, over the course of a few years. So, one of the things I really like about a lot of these roles is that ability to make quite a bit of money quickly on. And then, of course, the world becomes your oyster once you have that experience down because then there are so many, especially at that kind of that mid and to senior level, there's so many more opportunities that
yeah,
really come with that advancement. So, and then if you look at it, like if I have a student that's like, I don't necessarily know if I want to go into college, but hey, I can get an internship. I can start at an entry level, and by the time what it would have been when I graduated from college, I can be close to that six figures with no student loans. So
yep,
I think that's
exactly.
amazing.
And my next role would have been director, and that would have definitely been over six figures.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really have the desire to go any higher than that, as in VP of marketing or chief marketing officer, just because I see how much that person works, and it's a lot, and it takes a toll on your family. And I didn't want to do that for myself. I didn't want to live at work, really.
Well, and I think that's an important point because you kind of have to balance out how much am I going to work versus how much I can make.
Yeah.
And so sometimes making a little bit less means your work life balance is important, and I think something to consider before you want to climb all the way up the ladder. I
It's true.
know
Yeah.
my dad worked constantly,
Hmm.
and then when he got towards the end of his life, the one thing he said is, "I kind of wish I had made less money and worked less." you know, but
Hindsight. Yep.
so let's look at within marketing itself,
Hmm.
because I know digital marketing is relatively new. So
Yeah.
if one of my students is watching this and they kind of like the idea of marketing, what areas of marketing would you suggest that they maybe kind of focus on or really look at honing their skills in?
I would say definitely social media. That's not going anywhere. And there are things that you can teach yourself. One thing I highly recommend is going on to HubSpot. HubSpot Academy has a lot of free certifications, which will take you a little bit of time. It's all online, it's all video based, and then there's quizzes that you pass afterwards. And it's even something that you can link to on your LinkedIn as well to make you stand out. And um, there's a lot of stuff to check out on there. I think SEO is really important. Learning how to really make Google happy in order to send people your way is hugely important. That's not going anywhere. Google's not going anywhere. Um, and then, yeah, social media, SEO, WordPress, a lot of other things that are in marketing, which is kind of interesting because when I was looking for positions, I would see that they wanted Salesforce experience or Marketo. And I never worked at places where I had the opportunity to work with those products. So for me, it was kind of unfortunate because there's not really a place to learn those either. There's not like a free resource to learn that, whereas there is free resources for Google Ads. Go online and teach yourself that too, or go online and teach yourself Google Analytics. Data analytics is humongous in the marketing industry. If you have any interest in numbers whatsoever, go into data analytics. But me, even being a non-numbers person, I went through a Google Coursera project management certification recently, and I really enjoyed that. I started off doing the data analytics and pivoted over to project management because I was like, I can't nail this stuff in my head anymore. Like I'm not in high school anymore. I don't have to suffer through something that I just don't want to learn.
Yeah, I did. I did the SEO on HubSpot, and I enjoyed it. But they had
Yeah.
a few times in there where they started really talking about more the technical side of SEO, and I was like,
Yeah.
I just want to learn about long tail keywords and like how to post this. Yeah. So, and
Yep.
data analytics is just an animal, but it just goes to
Yeah.
show like if you're creative or if you're,
Mhm.
you don't consider yourself creative, but you're kind of a math numbers person, there's so many opportunities that you can go through. Let's talk. You mentioned mentors earlier, and I think
Mhm.
this is really important to cover.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, how important have mentors be, and what is about the best way to go about maybe finding mentors?
I think that mentors have been hugely impactful in my life, and I never sought them out. I've always been kind of a introvert, so it's always been hard for me to reach out to strangers. And what I've learned is that in sharing my story, people just come out to me. And so it's really opening up, giving value or benefits to somebody else or intriguing them enough to want to have interest in you as well. And so with mentorship, I would not suggest just cold calling. Like you got to think of it. I'm such a marketing brain person that I always think of everything as this funnel where when are you ready to buy something? You're not ready to buy something with that first Google ad that you get served. Like you're just learning about it at that point. And so I approach everything in life this way and I think about it that way. So you hate um, emails that come to you from a company that you don't know anything about. I hate them. Everybody hates them. And so, why do I have any sort of reason to buy this thing or buy into it? And it's the same thing with a stranger reaching out to you. Like, you aren't invested in them yet. So, it's really about building that relationship and then it naturally progressing into that person having interest in you and wanting to help you out because they see what your value is and they want to help you get to a higher place. And so I wouldn't seek out mentorship in the way that you might think that you're supposed to by being really aggressive about it. I would instead just share your own story and see who comes your way and who shows interest in you.
I like that. In some ways, it reminds me of what like a lot of my colleagues are doing as they're trying to transition out of the classroom, and they're
Mhm.
just like grasping at straws and like, help me, help me, help me, and they're rather than taking the time to engage. Okay, so I have a hot seat question for you. Um, And this doesn't, the answer doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to pertain towards like education or profession or career. Okay. So, knowing what you know now, what is one piece of advice you would give your middle school or high school self?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, just don't be so scared to try things and just jump in and figure it out as you're doing it. Because honest to God, that is what everybody's doing. Like nobody knows what they're doing. When I was that age, I thought adults knew what they were doing, and we don't. We are just figuring it out.
You're absolutely right. And I think there's, as I've seen some people that are posting on LinkedIn, they're like, I want to do this, this, and this, and this, and they don't really understand the role. And I think for a lot of us, we don't really understand, professions and careers until we actually step into them.
Yeah.
So this is, and as I think that's important when you're younger, because at least for me, when I was younger, everybody said, "Oh, you can be anything you want to do. You can do anything that you want to do." So they even encourage you to go and set up like a lemonade stand and stuff. But dear
Yeah.
God, if I try to set up a lemonade stand now across the street, they'll be like, "Josh, get off! What are you doing?" And so I find the older I get, I like, are you sure you want to change careers? Are you sure that you want to? And so there seems to be, as we get older, that your biggest supporters become the antagonists of your success in some
Yep.
ways. So,
Yep.
well,
Yeah, when you're younger, it can be super overwhelming. It's like opening up that Cheesecake Factory menu and not knowing where to start.
yes.
I'm like, can we narrow this down a little bit more?
Well, and speaking of Cheesecake Factory, I took my daughter there for her birthday one time, and you know, they're like, oh, it's your daughter's birthday. Awesome. How about, would you like a piece of cheesecake for her birthday? And I was like, okay. So then we get the bill, and it was like $11 for this piece of cheese. I was like, wait a minute, but I didn't want to be like cheap and go, I'm not paying for this. But yeah, that's reminding me of that.
That's not the way to sell.
I know. I was like, I thought they were giving like,
Right.
some places have birthday cakes and birthday, things like that. But yeah, I was like,
Yep.
oh, okay, sure. But yeah, that was an interesting experience. All right. Well, Maria, I really, really appreciate your time and your experience. And I love the journey and just showing that, there are multiple paths to kind of get where
Yes,
you're at. And
definitely.
it's been fantastic. So,
There's no one path. There are a lot of options out there, but it's going above and beyond and doing those extra things that make you stand out.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.